This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Hello and welcome to sunny Imola for a special event here, GT3 cars on this Halloween in 2020. The South American special here at World Pro Racing with assistance from our lovely sponsors, Gaming Malta, HyperX Thrustmaster, visitmalta.com, and what a legendary circuit to be at. My name is Lewis McGlade and I'll be taking you through all of the action this evening and what action to focus on. A qualifying session coming up shortly. Before that, a practice and then an hour-long race, which will fly us in to November. Should be a fantastic one. Fuel wear's pretty high. We're at ×2 on fuel. It's going to be pretty interesting how that's going to play itself strategically into the race, expecting pit stops and a quality field as well. Some top-tier drivers from rFactor 2. And to be fair, across sim racing, it's a united front, as it were. Imola, though, it's a fantastic venue, one that truly places itself high up in motorsport and, of course, sim racing, one that's been around for a very, very long time. It was changed to the current format in 2008, where it was some chicanes were removed, some chicanes were added, and it is the Imola that we know and love today. Some people prefer the old layout, some people prefer the new. It's the joy of times changing. The layout that we have, though, now provides some great overtaking opportunities. We'll have to see how that unfolds, though, in the race, in the practice session, which will be going on shortly. They'll have a short practice prior to it. They've all had their driver's briefing. Should begin in a couple of minutes. They've all had that driver's briefing, though, getting a little bit of a talking to, making sure they know how everything is going to run across the evening. It's a 21-car grid that we have presently, so plenty of choice. Most of them will be Corvettes. I'm going to take a wild assumption is at the moment the Callaway is a very, very good car, especially at this venue. That said, things like the BMW, the Porsche's good off of corners. BMW is good in straight lines, so we'll expect them to come to the fore. And it's just one of the many community events that we've got here in World Pro Racing. We move to practice in just a couple of minutes, and so we'll get some action from on track and a beautiful sunny day here. Of course, here in Europe, it's currently about 2 o'clock in the morning. But for the drivers taking part, finally, they have an event that works in their favour. Of course, one of the joys of sim racing is that everyone takes part from around the world. It's a very international sport, especially moving forward. So for some people from around the world, the likes of the Australians, Americans, sometimes they're racing at awkward times. So it's nice for them to have an event that runs to their schedule, and so they can have fun. We do actually have some very quality drivers, some that I've raced with previously. Genius Riera, Luis Felipe Capamajan, drivers in that vein, all top tier talents that are battling fairly high up in rFactor 2 sim racing. Luis Felipe Capamajan is actually going to take quite some beating here, in my opinion. Takes part in the rFactor 2 GT Challenge. He's going to be a very hard man to beat. That said, there are plenty of other drivers that can match him on pace. Certainly wasn't topping practice prior to the briefing. Just how they wrestle their way to the limit of the circuit. We come then to live pictures here in this beautiful circuit in lovely, lovely sunny Italy, right in the north of Italy as well. And it truly is lovely out there. Genius Riera, one of the drivers on screen in a Ferrari, so one of the non-Corvettes. This is official practice. so all getting ready for qualifying. You see a lot of low fuel runners at this point, drivers that are getting used to the car and a lighter fuel load, changing that balance. And then, of course, there'll still be some that'll, you say sandbagging. It's kind of hard to say sandbagging. It's not really the case. It's more they're just running on race fuel at the moment, just making sure that they're on the limit of the car in that scenario. Here is the driver that I would focus on throughout most of the evening's running, Louis-Philippe Capamajin in the Callaway. So one of the favoured cars going toe-to-toe with Argenis Riera in that Ferrari. And just how he is going to find the limit, we'll have to wait and see. That Callaway's a nice car. And I must say, looking pretty nice as well. Same livery that he runs in GT Challenge. You can tell it's still got the same number on the side. Lovely livery, though, that they've put together. And certainly one that he'll be wrestling around looking for a victory this evening. But he's going to have a bit of a tussle here in practice at the moment. The top four separated by just 4/10 of a second. That said, Giancarlo Valerde has just pulled in a blinder of a final sector. That's a very good time. 41.619. Naturally, with a circuit such as this on rFactor 2, you kind of get a little bit of rubbering in. Even if the track's like very heavily rubbered, you'll still see some addition to that. So you'll see the pace get slightly quicker. You'll see the cars get slightly quicker. That, though, is far too much curb. So he might need to take a think of that. It's been a while since I've seen a Velez car, but lovely to see one out and about. Martin Girardo, who runs down to Acqua Minerale. All of the corners around here have great names. Piratella, Acqua Minerale, Tosa. They're all located. It's kind of one of those things that I love about a circuit like this is you don't just get numbered corners. They do obviously have numbers, but let's be honest, no one cares about that. If you talk about the limit of turn 13 or whatever, well, then you actually talk about the limit of coming through Acqua Minerale. It sounds much better, doesn't it? As we watch coming downhill towards that final couple of corners, where it used to be, coming out of it, there was a chicane a little bit further down, but these days, not so much. We're flat out from the final corner all the way up to the first couple, and that's where you basically just keep your foot planted for an absolute age. But Tamburello awaits. That's where we're going to see quite a lot of overtaking. Nice time to go to the top of the timesheets. As I said, everyone's on low fuel at the moment. We ride on board through Tamburello. Reprofiled with this chicane in 2000. Oh, no, 2000. Much earlier than that. It was in the mid-90s, of course. Reprofiled as the final section. It was reprofiled in the late 2000s, mid-2000s. On board, running a little bit too wide there at Villeneuve. I don't think he'll want to quite repeat that. And throwing a lot of lock-in through Tosa as well. We're going to see plenty of overtakes when it comes to Tamburello and when it comes to Tosa. So don't you panic. Especially between that top lot who aren't separated by very much. That is not how you want to do Piratella. Good catch though. I'll give him a 5 out of 10 for the hands on that. Did manage to pick the car up quite nicely with 11 minutes left of this practice session. They'll be able to finish all of their laps in preparation for the race ahead. They've also got to just watch out. You know, the track circuit like this does tend to bite. It's the issue with it. The old circuits, there's not much runoff. So if you make a mistake... Oh, speaking of which, going straight across there, that's not going to be a great move. Not sure quite who that was firing across. Oh, straight to the middle of the right. Oh, dear. That was not ideal. That's Aru just coming awry there at the final couple of corners. That's not ideal. I must say, Garrido's car looks absolutely fantastic. The Fanatec logo, using the beautiful PBR shaded as well to really liven up the front of the car. Argenis Riera in the SMP Ferrari. They're going to come across the line to complete another lap time. Should be a decent improvement and moves him 3/10 off of the top time. But these aren't the limit. This is not what we're expecting to be the very, very limit of the session. We'll expect them to go a fair amount faster when it comes to qualifying, as everyone will light the Bunsen burner and try and fire in some good times. That said, you kind of want to go into it with confidence from practice. And that's not going to give you too much confidence. Melzi in a BMW, less seen BMW. This is actually a perfectly decent car. A lot of people kind of don't rate the the BMW too highly, but it is a car that's picked by plenty of decent drivers. When it comes to their car selection across the GT3 category, the current balance of performance does tend to favour the Callaway, but over a race distance, things like the BMW, they can come to the fore. It's things like the Ferrari that tend to drop off. That's where I'd kind of look at our Genus Riera and question a little bit, because the Ferrari over a race distance can tend to struggle just a touch. Just burns out the front tyres a little bit too much. If you are watching though, drop some comments in the chat just to throw us a little bit of information. How are you feeling? Who are you thinking is going to be taking top spot come qualifying, come the race? Who's going to be taking top honours here in this special event, the South American Special for World Pro Racing? And as you see at the bottom there, if you want to join, go and join and go to the website. Plenty of events yet to come. Of course, you saw on the adverts coming into this, there's a GT3 race at Misano. They've got plenty of other things coming up though, so just keep an eye on the website. Very easy to use. Go and find yourself a series to come and take a part in, and what a place to do so. World Pro Racing, definitely something that's moving forward. On board with Melzi coming through Aqua Minerale. Lovely done, taking that final bit of the curb. It's a great corner. When you're getting it right, it's a great corner. When you're getting it wrong, it's absolutely horrible. It's a complete nightmare. As is with most corners on the circuit, there's a very good flow to it. The thing is, with unlike quite a lot of circuits, if you take, for example, something like Suzuka, something like Spa, even through like the middle sector, as we've got a yellow out in Sector 1, there's a certain flow to the circuits. Whereas this, in that kind of classic tradition, there are some corners, like Tamburello is a chicane. Obviously, you mess up the first bit, you mess up the second bit. That's how a chicane works. But normally you have a fair break between corners. Off of the final corner on the run towards Tamburello, you've got plenty of break to sort of like, if you've messed up the final corner, you've got time to reset yourself. If you mess up Tamburello, you've got a decent run between there and Villeneuve. There's not corners that lead into each other. It's not like the S's at Suzuka or Magus, Beckers and Chapel at Silverstone, where you go through a section of corners and you've kind of got to carry that momentum all the way through. And if you mess one bit of it up, you've effectively offline and losing time throughout all of it. So, not the case here though. We're okay. It's kind of one of the joys of a circuit like this. That said, there are corners like the one we're just going through here, Aqua Minerale, on I believe an outlap here for Cavero. As it requires so much commitment on the run in that you need to just take a deep breath, slam the brake pedal, throw it in, and really hope for the best. It's a very tricky corner. Lovely fun though, lovely fun. I've not raced at Imola for a fair while actually, but I did do some racing around here probably about 8 months ago. And it's a fantastic venue to come racing, especially in the sun. Not one that I've ever raced out in the wet, as John Cook way over the curb though. That's not going to help in a McLaren, and very much the unfavoured McLaren, it must be said. Brave choice taking one of those around here, and Ravazza nearly did spit him off. It's a tricky car to drive. Definitely one that requires some hustling here in the GT3 category. Plenty of cars. We're not going to see the Radical, I don't think, which is a shame. It's I say it's a shame. It's a terrible car in when it comes to the GT3 balance. Always kind of has been one that's been massively off. It can be close, but it's only in the right hands, only in someone that's like prepared to really throw it around. It's very unforgiving. So it's kind of a shame that we don't see it more, but kind of makes sense. There's a lovely livery on that one though. Standard RF2 Studio 3971 though. Of course, the developer of the sim. There we go. Losing him in the depth of field there as well. Fantastic. Does seem to be wrestling the car around a little bit too much. Did say that it is a bit of a wrestling match in the McLaren, but he is giving it a good go as well. Is John Cook? He's absolutely throwing it around. Not afraid of getting the rear end out. I'd say, without being a driver critic too badly, I'd say he's breaking a little bit too early into Variante Alta there. Potentially losing a bit of time, maybe losing a bit of faith where the rear end sliding around. Of course, setup balance and stuff like that's a key thing. As there we go, straight off at Ravazza. That's going to be a big one into the barrier. Is he going to get all the way there? Yes, just about. Just overdid it. Took too much curb through the kink before Variante Alta, before Ravazza rather, after Variante Alta, and just overdid it there. Quite easy to do, but just need to make sure to stay off that curb. You want to line it up. You want to get all the way over to the left-hand side off of Variante Alta. Just hook it nicely up to the kink, but make sure you're not turning in too early, so that you're lining up for a straight line in the braking zone into Ravazza. If you're not in a straight line into Ravazza, the car's going to be squirming because there's a downhill braking zone in there, of course, into a double left-hander. And the rear end's always kind of just threatening to lose grip. That's a bit clumsy. I'll give them that. That was Alonso Miranda and the driver that he was overtaking, the Ferrari of Almeida. One of the Almeidas. I think we've got two of them here. It was just a little bit clumsy there on the apex of Variante Alta. I don't know if we are on a time as well with Alonso Miranda. Oh, there's another Ferrari in the way. Struggling to find his way through cleanly. That was Thompson that he was just throwing his way past there, the Ferrari. And then across the line, no improvement. No surprise there was no improvement there in the practice session. Qualifying will be coming underway shortly after this. Once the timers hit 0, everyone will finish their laps and we'll get ready for a qualifying session of 15 minutes where we'll see who can reach their way to a top spot in that qualifying session and start the race from pole position. It'll be a standing start as well. So getting the qualifying done right, starting from higher up the grid, absolutely crucial because you want to be starting ahead. You know, naturally around a circuit like this, we kind of expect to see, without foregoing, there's potential, for instance, into Tamburello. And with that, you kind of need to be prepared for it, and the best way to prepare for it is starting further up the order, and of course it makes it a bit easier to win, doesn't it? That said, everyone loves a good drive from the back of the grid to the top. I don't think we'll be seeing too much of that today. We look at Alonso Miranda there setting a decent first sector, and coming through the second sector, no car in sight ahead, so should be able to set a time. Velarde, by the way, Giancarlo Velarde, has set the fastest time of the session, a 40.867. So goes to the top ahead of Fabrizio Martello. So decent time still coming in for drivers in this practice session as everyone's trying to just sort of balance their way for a qualifying session. Espinosa goes to 5th place in qualifying. What times are we going to see? What kind of improvements are we going to see from these drivers when it comes to that qualifying session in just a couple of minutes' time? Alexandra Baumgartner just come to the line. Any improvement goes to 11th. Most of these drivers, kind of what you're expecting from this, because everyone wants to win, but it's kind of, you go into a race with different levels of expectation dependent on who you are, depending on what you expect of yourself, and where you believe your ability level is. Garrido rather to the line, and improves to 3rd place. Got a little bit of slipstream there from the Ferrari ahead as well, so that'll help him out. Pulls off of this lap. That is I'm going to maintain. I think the purple on that car looks absolutely fantastic. Here's a YTF1 styled livery. I think it's just one of the generic ones in game. There was a livery competition, which is how some of these liveries have got in. And this one's a YTF1 base, so it's Matthew Allington's team. A fantastic livery they've got. This is a good one as well. Leonardo Ferreira. That is a really nice livery. That one is a custom one, if I believe. That's not anything to do with RF2 and its livery, but that one looked absolutely stunning. I very much like a black and green type livery. Very much a fan. Very bright. You cannot miss it. Some people will find it ghastly, but no, I like it. Took way too much curb there at Variante Alta there, and it's just thrown the rear end off. Currently down in 13th place, 2.5 seconds clear at the top. So he needs to do some decent improvement, and that's 2.5 seconds to this man here, Giancarlo Velarde, who's top in the session at the moment in the Callaway, that Velez Callaway. We'll see what he does towards the line. He's on an outlap at the moment, so he's got one final one. He's not actually going to be able to start it, so he's just gone out to play monkeys. There you go. He's pulled the cable on it. Garrido's also come out just to come and wrap up the session. The time there, though, set a 40.867, 41.1 the time behind, so 0.3 clear at the moment. But keep your eye on the drivers like Arginas Riera, who finished that session in 5th place, on Louis-Philippe Capamajan, who's in 7th. There are drivers that we would suspect will be higher up in that session come the finale of the qualifying session shortly after this, which we're just about to move to now. And we'll take a look around the circuit and see who's ready to set good times. 15 minutes ahead of them on a very tricky racetrack and a very tricky Saturday evening. It is Halloween though, so you never know what to expect. It's always a bit of fun. There you are, seeing the drivers lining up, and you see Louis-Philippe Capamajan is the first driver to enter the racetrack. So he's desperate to get himself some clean air. Doesn't want anyone slipstream. Doesn't want anyone near him when it comes to his racing, his qualifying lap. Just wants to be himself. The circuit. It's normally the best way to do it, I find. If you try and wrestle around with other people trying to find yourself some slipstream, it's never an ideal situation. You tend to get distracted more than anything else, unless you've got someone who's pretty much exactly the same speed as you, because you're not going to get too much dirty air in these cars. But you need to find someone who's on exactly the same pace, because the problem is, if the moment that you're separated on pace, the moment that you're fast in the car ahead, you start losing time more than anything else. You need to find that right balance where they're only like 2 or 3 tenths slower, maybe even a little bit quicker, and you just find that little bit of time. Not many drivers will be faster than this man, Louis-Philippe Capamajan, towards Aqua Minerale. Got a few drivers behind as well, trying to pick up slipstream from him before they start that qualifying time. It's important. I did see him doing some weaving, which is quite interesting, all things considered. Now, normally in an aspect, you kind of think that's not weird. That's perfectly normal. It's in rFactor 2. You don't actually want to warm the tyres up too much. You want to keep them nice and cold, because the problem is in rFactor 2 with the time order that's in at the moment is you tend to overheat the tyres too quickly. It's why you see actually from the end of the lap he wasn't doing any tyre warming once he passed Variante Villeneuve. Let's take a look then around the circuit with Louis-Philippe Capamajan. He's taken a wider line, so obviously trying to widen up the approach to the start-finish line. And we'll ride on board with him and see what kind of lap time he can do. Comes through the first kink. Technically counts as a corner. He's got a little bit of traffic up ahead as Campos gets out of the way. We head through Variante Tamburello through the left-hander. Didn't get very far over to the right-hand side. They maybe didn't need it, though. Easily did that one flat all the way through. Then coming up towards Variante Villeneuve. Heavy on the brakes. Little dab of throttle just to balance the car out. Down to second gear. Kicking up over the curb. Good catching there from the Peruvian. Comes to the corner of Toza, finding that late apex, brings it in down on the red, green and white curb beautifully there. Though you kind of only want to touch the green part of it, though. That's the kind of issue. You don't want to go any further over because it unsettles the rear. Piratella, beautiful corner. Oh, lighting it up on the rear as well. Lovely execution. Got Almeida ahead as well. Favourite corner on the circuit. Aqua Minerale takes curb on the first part, heavy on the brakes, picks up the second part, maybe runs it a little bit too wide. Be careful of that. The track will give you it will discontinue your lap if you're not careful. He didn't get it though, so he's not got a track cut on this. Over Variante Alta. Mash the throttle out of there and try and catch it on the steering. It's looking like a decent lap so far from Capamajan. There we are, through the kick downhill into Ravazza, the first part. It's maybe a little bit hot. No, it's all right. He's wrestled it up. Didn't actually take it hot enough. He could have run a little bit wider there. And then beautifully through the final part of Ravazza. Lined it up and did a good drive out of the corner. Kept it absolutely pinned, increasing his speed, 220k at the moment. What's he going to do towards the line? What kind of time are we expecting to see from the Peruvian? Crosses it, does a 41.0. Still expecting some decent improvements on that, because still a couple of tenths of what we saw in practice. But decent time to open the session with, nonetheless. 41.050, 1.6 seconds clear at the moment. Just Cavero gets within a second, down to half a second now, the gap at the top. Our focus remains on Giancarlo Velarde, who comes to Variante Alta. Purple in the first sector, second sector split just... actually, he would have already passed the second sector split, so he's actually what I was speaking of with his lap time when it came to Louis-Philippe Capamajin has happened to Giancarlo Velarde, who does not have a time being set on the present lap. So he's just wrestling it down in speed and trying to sort of calm things down, calm the tyre temperature down, and maybe find his rhythm once again. So to start another lap time, no time set on his first time of the session. With only a 15-minute session, oh, he's definitely not going to get a time on this one. Completely overdoes Tamburello. Paul Garton, currently qualified in 8th place, doing decent first sector, decent second. Currently sat on a 43.123. Still perfect time to improve on that in all of that. Martin Garrido went to 2nd place in that black and purple Callaway. So it's a Callaway 1, 2, 3. Espinosa's done a decent time. He's currently in 4th place, 1.5 seconds off, but in a BMW. Got to give them extra credit when they're not in the lead in their favoured car. I love seeing people in mixed cars. I'm not a massive fan when you see a GT category and everyone's just in the same car. That is a good time there from the Ferrari driver. Speaking of ones that aren't Callaways, Paul Gartner goes to 4th place. A good 1.3 seconds off, mind, but still. Jose Antonio Soto in 11th place. Shouldn't be an improvement. Could improve in the final sector, though. He's got Argenis Riera ahead. Who, Riera is... Oh, no, Riera was behind, actually, in a different car. Apologies. Riera's just gone to 4th place, 7/10 off. So a fair amount. It is an Aston Martin, though. So you've got to give credit for that, because that Aston Martin in the GT3 category is not ideal. It's not terrible. It's definitely a mediocre car. Unfortunately, most things in the GT3 category are fairly mediocre in comparison to the Callaway at the moment. That said, any driver who wins regardless of car is worthy of the victor, in my opinion. I've spoken about this a few times, as I've seen a lot of people try and devalue a victory courtesy of the car they're in, and that's not necessarily like I don't believe in that at all. I'll tell you if the car's a little bit too much, a little bit overpowered, however you want to see it. But at the same time, there is that sort of line where you're kind of doing it to remove the majesty of a victory. This man, though, has qualified in 2nd place at the moment, 2:14. Capamajin did improve, by the way, so he's got it under the 41 mark. Got it down to a 40.981. We did see a 40.8 though, so there's still some more time in it. As Garrido is not. Is he on a time? He should be. He is. Yeah, he's just going to come through the first sector now. Yeah, you go. And there we go. But it's purple as well. Nice time, 25.350 from Garrido. He's got Paul Garton up ahead. That's the car that's just down the road. Obviously, he's about 1 second quicker over a lap. And that gap, oh my goodness me. He was very far over to the right-hand side before he turned in for Piratella there. Very much just almost cutting the grass and very committed. That's too committed. That's far too committed. Yeah, that lap time is, that was far too quick into Aqua Minerale. It was a shame because actually, with the first sector that he'd set, and considering the gap as well to Baumgarten, it was looking like it could have been pretty good. Loses time in that sector though, and to quite a concerning degree. Oh, who's that? Who's improved? Someone has improved inside the top 10. I think it might be Espinosa, who's moved up to the 5th place ahead of Argenis Riera. Miguel de los Rios goes to 7th place. Fair improvement from him. We'll ride on board with Garrido to the line and see if there's going to be any improvement from him. Obviously, we're not expecting it so much on this lap. Yellow flags out in Sector 1 as people are escaping from their lap to return to pit lane for yet another attempt. A couple of drivers yet to qualify. Speaking of one of them that had yet to qualify, Giancarlo Velarde, who was very far down the order, had set some times but never actually completed one, does complete one, and the topper of the practice session goes to the top in the qualifying session, a 10th clear of Louis-Philippe Capamajin. I believe it was Capamajin who was the champion of... what was that series called? World GT back in 2015. God, it must have been 15. My goodness me, it's a long time ago. Time flies. Setting decent times in that second sector. He's very good in the GT category. Was my point in all of this. And he comes across the line and does improve and does go back onto provisional pole. That is a pretty staunchy benchmark, though. A couple of tenths clear of Giancarlo Velarde. A good time there from the Peruvian, and a nice time to set it as well. With just 5 minutes left on the clock, you kind of want to set those mega lap times as late in the session as you dare. Because the thing is, if he was to go out at the start of the session and bang in a 40.6, the issue with that is you've given them time to react. You've given them time to sort of understand, right, okay, I need to find myself a couple of tenths. And when you set that benchmark, it's much easier to go and find that limit. I've spoke before about when it comes to finding the limit of a race car and stuff like that. And as if you're practicing with a team that's all quite close, you will actually improve as a group. Because someone will set a time just slightly faster, and that's enough for you to be like, right, okay, I can find that a little bit more time, and then they try and find it, and then you try and find it, and then they try and find it, and then you move up the order, and you find half a second. Meanwhile, if from that first lap time, if someone instantly fires in a time that's half a second, 6/10 quicker, that's almost like soul crushing. It's just kind of like, I can't find that time. But my point to that is about how much time you give yourself to find that time. You know, if it's done in the first 5 minutes of the session, then like I said, there's 10 minutes to go. Plenty of time to find a couple of tenths. If you're going to set a good time early in the session, it needs to be soul crushing. And neither the time from Capamajan or Velarde or Garrido, none of those times are soul crushing, which means that there's plenty of time for them to get back on board. Here's Capamajan. Here's Miguel de los Rios. I'm sure he's not watching, but either way, boss man Marcel Offermans will be very impressed with Miguel de los Rios in the sense that he's driving his car. That's the livery of sim racing for Holland. Of course, part of the pack, and Miguel de los Rios flying the flag for our boss man Marcel Offermans. Of course, the guy part of 397, big part of 397, being the boss man, making the game. So obviously got to impress if you're brave enough to take that livery on. They were victorious as well in the Virtual Endurance Championship, was that team. So they've done quite well this year. Of course, just flying the livery for it. De los Rios comes down to Rivazza. An improvement in the first sector, but that is not going to be an improvement. Very much overdid the final part. He's still got enough time to get out there and do another lap and throw another one onto the board. Speaking of throwing another one onto the board, and speaking of trying to set soul-crushing times, here comes Louis-Philippe Capamajan. Very good first sector. An improvement on what he'd already set. Not by too much. It's by a few hundredths of a second. His previous one was a 25.389. This one's a 25.364. So there is an improvement coming the way of Capamajan. And there's still an improvement coming from Capamajan. That is purple by the tune of a tenth of a second. And he did go red in the final sector, meaning that he lost time in the final sector on his previous best. He did a 41.90. His best in the final sector is about 300ths faster than that. So it's a very small margin. Whoa, throwing it in to the first part of Rivazza. He's set his benchmarks through this session. He has very little to prove to everyone else but to himself. And on a 40.643, we could be seeing a time in the 40.4s, maybe even lower than that. What's he going to do towards the line? There we are, 40.404, nearly into the 40.3s. That is a quality lap time to move him nearly half a second clear of Giancarlo Velarde. That is a very, very nice lap time. And that is the kind of soul-crushing display that I was saying about. And doing it this late as well, there's very little time to react. Capamajan has returned to pit lane. His session is done. Alonso Miranda, Renzo Melzi, Leonardo Ferreira, Andre Pinillo, and Cavero. They've all also returned to the pit lane. So these are all drivers that have escaped from the session, that have finished their session as far as they are concerned. This is a good time coming in from Giancarlo Velarde. Maybe a little bit too much curb there at Variante Alta. In comparison to the lap time that was set by Capamajan, first sector, good. Second sector, good. This could also be a 4. It's just whereabouts in the 4 is it going to come from Giancarlo Velarde? Is it a better final sector? I get the feeling he maybe took too much curb at Variante Alta. It could still be a potential time to challenge that top spot, but I just don't think he's going to find enough in that final sector. Towards the line, he definitely did not. He lost time. There you go. You can see it went red. Way too much curb at Alta. And Giancarlo Velarde is only good enough for second place. Still, though, has the pace in the tank to move himself up. This is a couple of drivers. That was Martello, who's coming round the final corner to start his final lap of the session. We'll get enough time to complete it. We look at Martin Garrido. Not a great first sector. Decent in the second. And considering he's a fair way off, with it being 8/10, he could theoretically move himself into third place. Theoretically. I think it might be a little bit of a tall order, mind. But you never really know. We'll keep our eye on him as he comes through rFactor and fires it towards the line. Garrido, desperate to move himself up into third place. We'll focus our attention a little bit further up as Martello is on a lap. And Garrido going to come across the line. Is he even going to best the third place man at the moment? No, he's not. Not a good final sector. Fabrizio Martello flies it through Piratella and then down the hill. Not a great first sector and not a great Aqua Minerale either. Palmgartner and Maximiliano Moore are the other two on circuit. You've also got John Cook and Almeida also still setting times. This is actually looking like a pretty decent time, although with the traffic ahead, that's Maximiliano Moore. I get the feeling that he's going to struggle to improve because Moore is a good way off, although missing Ravazza. He's going to come straight back onto the racing line, though. Oh, Palmgartner's surely not going to be able to improve. He's just a little bit behind Miguel de los Rios, which is actually quite impressive. And bails into the pit lane. And to be fair, why not give yourself... Sorry, it wasn't Maximiliano Moore. Sorry, my apologies. That was Almeida. This is Maximiliano Moore, who's also going to do a pit lane entry. Apologies. The thing is, whilst you're in practice, whilst you're in qualifying, rather, towards the end of the session, why not throw in a final pit lane entry? Because you're not going to get too many more chances to do so. Especially as qualifying's wrapped up and Felipe Capamajan, maybe the favourite for today, grabs himself pole position. Velarde, Martello and Garrido directly behind. Argenis Riera might be a little bit disappointed with fifth place and nearly a second off, but nonetheless will do his best work to move his way up the order. These cars are quite tricky to drive. They maybe don't look it, but they are frustratingly slippery. I'll give them that. They're not like, it's not hard to, you don't tend to lose the car on the rear. You can catch them quite easily, but they do tend to just step out at the most irritating times. And especially when you're on the limit, naturally, you're going to slip the rear out just that little bit more. They'll do their warm-up session where they'll just have a bit of a breather and maybe get used to the car again on race fuel. And for Capamajan, I'm sure he's already done his fair share on race fuel. We saw in practice, I think he was doing most of the session on race fuel in that practice, and then only dropped it down in the qualifying session. What can Capamajan do when it comes to the race? You see there at the bottom of the screen. If you fancy following World Pro Racing, do so on any form of social media, over Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, whatever profile you're watching it on. And of course, don't forget to check in on the website every now and then and grab yourself the opportunity to go community racing, to go league racing, to join in with this and get yourselves on the broadcast as well. It's all good fun when it comes to racing. Everyone loves a community race. Everything's a bit more casual, a bit more chill, especially in the modern world of sim racing, where everything is very, very harsh. Before we go to the race, though, we'll just come to a quick ad break. So until then, goodbye.
This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Well, welcome back. It's nearly race time, and after a thrilling qualifying session, we return here to Imola, the GT3 cars here in 2020 for the South American Special in World Pro Racing with thanks to our lovely sponsors, Gaming Malta, HyperX, Thrustmaster. Visit malta.com. What a perfect venue to have. Very fitting this weekend, all things considered, on this Halloween. A 60-minute race ahead of us. ×2 on the fuel will provide some excellent strategy. And with Louis-Philippe Capamajan setting the pole time from Giancarlo Velarde, is he going to be able to take victory in the sun here in Imola? A perfect circuit, though, for us to go racing here in Emilia-Romagna in northern Italy. It's a beautiful place to be. Maybe a little bit chilly at this time of year, it must be said. That said, in game, it's set to a lovely 29 degrees. It looked pretty chilly when the Cycling World Championship came to an end here. Where 2-3 weeks ago, looked pretty chilly then. Less so now. It absolutely looks stunning at the moment, especially with the lighting model in rFactor 2 at the moment. Our focus then lies on the grid. Let's take a look at the order as Louis-Philippe Capamajan leads the way from Giancarlo Velarde, Martello, Garrido, Riera and Cavero, the top three rows. And then Espinosa. Miguel de los Rios might be a little bit disappointed with 8th place, but we'll see what he can do in the order. He's in the Callaway, should be able to move his way up. Alexandra Baumgartner and Omar Miranda leading Alonso Miranda. And then Benavides, Melzi, Yakimowicz, Moore, Campos, Ferreira, and then Jose Antonio Soto and John Cook and Andre Pinedo, who round out the top 20 drivers on the grid. The final 2 runners, Moises Almeida and Marcello Thompson, the final 2 runners on the grid. That all displayed in your tower on the left-hand side. You can see there the slight different tyre choices that we've got running. At the moment, you can see everyone's taken the soft compound tyre with the exception of 2. And that's Argenis Riera and Yakimowicz, who are in the Ferraris, and they've taken the medium compound tyre, which I find very interesting because that Ferrari does use its tyre, does eat them a little bit more than the Callaways and the M6s. So it's kind of, is it expected? Maybe. Is it going to work? I don't know. That's they're going to be down on pace. Not by too much. It's not a too tyre-sensitive circuit, but for Argenis Riera, currently qualified in 5th place, maybe not. Maybe not where he would have wanted to qualify. But either way, he's going to come round to start in that 5th place. Would have wanted to qualify a little bit higher. Starting on those medium tyres a step harder than the softs. Just made life a little bit more difficult for himself. The special race then about to get underway. South American special here at World Pro Racing. We've got live stewards as well, so big shout out to Adrian Figallo and George Muscat, who are doing the stewarding here. Both FIA recognised stewards, and thanks to them for joining us. Of course, everyone in the broadcast team bringing you the lovely pictures here in Imola. You see the grid then lining up. Preparations as far forward in the box, a standing start, of course, not a rolling one. Create a little bit of spice into Tamburello, and with Louis-Philippe Capamajan and Velarde starting on that front row, I reckon we might see a little bit of spice. The lights will be coming out ahead of them, and that run down towards turn 1, very, very infamous. One known all around the world of motorsport, that run into turn 1. For good reasons, for bad, the lights are on. Though, and this is going to be a good reason for them. Going to go racing. See a couple of drivers missing. They'll be able to start from the pit lane, and we are underway. It's a best launch of all of them for Argenis Riera. Actually, no, Cavero, who's gone from 6th place, is going to be moving all the way around the outside, maybe getting a little bit squeezed in the background from Garrido at the front of the field. Giancarlo Velarde just underdid it really into T1, nearly got by Louis-Philippe Capamajan. Garrido nearly got through, but he remains in 3rd place and overcooked it himself. Miguel de los Rios, who's been spun and put to the back. Unfortunately, it's not worked out for him. Look at the carnage in the middle of the pack. And Miguel de los Rios very much a part of that. A wheel dropped on, I believe, the Aston, and that's what kind of came across in front of him. Yeah, you see, he's got no front right wheel on that Aston Martin, and a couple of retirements already. Cavero, rather, who had started well, also a retirement. We've got some drivers all over the grid in the background. You've got Marcello Thompson. You've got Omar Miranda. You've got this is pretty chaotic back here. Marcello Thompson. As well, the 2 Mirandas, Omar and Alonso, have both had issues and come to blows. Who was in the Aston Martin though? There was an Aston Martin that had no wheel, that is no longer. Oh, he is still going. He's in 14th place. Jose Antonio Soto driving around with no wheel. I don't think they're going to be able to repair that. They might have changed that in rFactor 2, but normally they wouldn't put the suspension back in. So I'm not sure he's going to be able to continue in this race, but we'll keep our eyes pressed very much on him and see if he can do so. Already massively far down, though, and just wants to reach the checkered flag. We'll see how that one rolls out for him. Completion of the first lap, though, and Louis-Philippe Capamajan is going to lead that first lap of the race. Giancarlo Velarde, who is probably approaching about a second off after the end of the first lap. Maybe not ideal. We did see, though, there was pace from Velarde. They've both pulled away massively from those further down the order. There's still close. There we go. So Jose Antonio Soto has retired from the race after the lap 1 incident and has decided to pull the plug on it. this afternoon. You see the battle in the background there for third place, closing in. Martello and Garrido, very, very close. Garrido had a great start, but unfortunately just nearly overdid it into T1. Could have done something very nice, to be honest. Maybe even started challenging with the leaders, but that overcooking cost him probably about 4 or 5 tenths of a second. And now the pressure being applied from behind. He did qualify in 6th place. Argenis Riera in that Ferrari on those medium tyres didn't make any progress from his start, despite actually starting quite well, to be honest. Did make a good launch, but unfortunately just didn't really have anywhere to go. There was a couple of Callaways directly ahead of him, and there was no space for him to find his way through and maybe start challenging the podium spots. And on those medium tyres, maybe it'll come to the fore at the end of the race. We are expecting a pit stop, and obviously if they're going to run the mediums, the expectation is that when they come in, they're not going to change tyres. That said, the GT3 category, with the way the tyres are, if I'm not mistaken, the tyre wear is set to standard, so ×1, so regular simulation. With that, realistically, the tyres should be able to do the distance fairly easily for any category. So we're not expecting any tyre changes. That said, the mediums may hold out better towards the end of the race, especially when it comes to putting on a bigger fuel load. That's where things can get really, really tricky, because when you put weight back onto it, as we see the podium really, really battling it out, Fabrizio Martello is very much in touching distance of Martin Garrido, but it's not an easy circuit to overtake at. We ride on board with Martello, focusing from his point of view, what he can see, watching him wrestle his way through Villeneuve. That is very wide there from Garrido, and if I was Martello right now, I'd be looking at him thinking, wow, you're under a lot of pressure here, and you are feeling it. It is noticeable, and so you kind of suspect there'll be a mistake. Speaking of pressure, look at this. Giancarlo Velarde has closed up to Louis-Philippe Capamachan. Maybe Capamachan's looking after his tyres a little bit more, or maybe Velarde has got more pace in it. Did top the practice session, qualified in 2nd place, did Velarde. And so you would suspect there's plenty of pace in the tank. And it seems to be the pace that he was maybe trying to find at the end of that qualifying session is being found. Oh, that's not a smart place to do a dive, though. That is not a smart place to do a dive into Variante Alta. Not 100% sure if that was intended, or maybe if he just realised that Capamachan was braking a bit earlier than he expected. But either way, Velarde was nearly forced down the inside into a corner where that's not really the case. Very much overdoes it into the first part of Ravazza, though. Maybe just overcooking his tyres. This is what Capamachan was so good at when I raced him back in 2015. He's very, very good at thinking of the long game, of looking after the tyres, looking after the fuel, and making sure he can reach the checker flag in the ideal position. That said, we run towards Tamburello. That slipstream's working out for Giancarlo Velarde. Covered off nicely, though. And Martello, by the way, is through on Garrido as well. So up to the podium, nearly overcooked Tamburello, and Garrido might be able to come back through towards Variante Villeneuve. There is some racing as well in the background of this. You've got Melzi and Penido, who are also battling it out. Louis-Philippe Capamachan's going to hold on to the race lead, at least for now. Martello is through on Garrido and does hold it. And Penido, sorry, he's through on Cook. It was John Cook that he's got the position done. So Andrea Penido, in a very similar move to what we saw from Martello, gets through and up into 8th place. Capamachan, though, at the head of the field, still at least for now. Whether that pressure does come from behind through Aqua Minerale. It is good pressure being applied. Just overcooking it, though, is Velarde. I focus on Martello, who's pulled away by a good second on Garrido. Maybe just doesn't have the legs. Did wonder if his good start favoured him very nicely. Moved from 6th place up into 3rd. Dropped back a little bit, but nevertheless, taking the advantage on the start is extremely important, because it's the easiest place to overtake. If you've got a lot of positions to make up. I know it sounds really, really obvious, and it is obvious, but it's very hard to make sense of when you're in the car. It's so hard to take advantage of. But when everyone's close up on the start, that's the best time to take those moves, to really, really go for it. Jakovic, by the way, is on the back of John Cook getting a message. Cavero is going to get a stop and go 10 seconds penalty for a dangerous move and causing an incident with Argenis Riera. Oh, sorry, apologies. I read the first part of the message, said don't mention anything because he's out of the race. Never mind, that one is sorted by itself. Oh, who's that going across the grass? Is that a lapped car? Oh my goodness me. That's John Cook being moved off. It's not a lapped car. It's Rafael Benavides. What has happened to... I'm fair. He's got some pretty harsh suspension damage, has Benavides. But Rafael Benavides just coming across the racing line whilst they were driving on it. Maybe he didn't realise quite how damaged his car was. I'm sorry, little bit baffled by that. John Cook, though, up to 8th place. Jakob Moritz behind. Nearly got a move done, but with everything happening there, I think it all just got a little bit crazy. Penido's been able to pull away. Benavides is dropping further back down the order, drops back behind Moises Almeida, and I think he'll be taking a trip to the pit lane. I wonder if we can get a replay as to what actually happened to him, because there was something very seriously wrong with that Callaway. Not very wrong with this Callaway. I think Benavides is ready for a retirement rather than returning to the pit lane. This Callaway of Fabrizio Martello was doing very, very well. There is Benavides, and this should be a replay as to what happens to the young man. Oh, this is where he spun at the top at Piratella, and bang into the wall, bang hard into the wall as well. That's a pretty harsh hit, and there he has retired from the race. Still battles down the order as Penido behind this. Sorry, look at those two going at it. Oh, that's not very good though from John Cook, who has, I believe, just spun out Jakob Moritz. Palmgartner as well, retired from the race. Marcello Thompson in a bit of the wars here down at T1. Oh my goodness me, don't do that, don't do that. Oh, is that the race leaders as well coming through? Oh, that's 3rd place. That is 3rd place. Oh, it's not 3rd place. Oh, that's what happened to... Right, that makes a lot of sense. Apologies. That is what happened to Benavides. Makes a lot of sense now. That was very dangerous from that Ferrari, must be said. As yeah, apologies for that. That was a previous incident and what's caused a few issues. Not sure which Ferrari it was. Marcello Thompson, sorry. I said that. I just looked at the replay and saw what his name was. Marcello Thompson, though, causing a bit of issue and trying to drag his way back to pit lane with a very damaged car. Your top 3 at the moment as we look at Garrido, Velarde ahead, and Louis-Philippe Capamajan ahead of that. Battles which were happening have since split apart, courtesy of a slew of retirements. Fabrizio Martello, Alexander Palmgartner, and Benavides, all recent retirements to add to the list. A bit of carnage further down the order as Jose Antonio Soto, Cavero and Miguel de los Rios, all retirements from this race in the early phases of this evening's action. Still 49 minutes left on the clock, 10 minutes into the race, seeing a few retirements. It can happen around a circuit that bites as hard as Imola. Still, there are some races happening on circuit. Jakob Moritz coming under pressure from Leonardo Ferreira, as long as he keeps hitting the apexes. Moises Almeida as well is not too far behind. I get the feeling John Cook might be under a little bit of the steward's eye after that incident, and maybe taking a good look at, because wasn't ideal, must be said. Easy to have happen though. This man's just trying to run away now. He's taken advantage of it. After skipping the first chicane, he's lit the Bunsen burner and absolutely gone. And what a fantastic drive it is from Capamajan. Making a bit of a return to sim racing. I don't think he particularly left. I just haven't seen him around too much as Capamajan. I think he had taken a little bit of a break. Used to be teammates. For those of you that watch a fair amount of rFactor 2 sim racing and take part yourself, you'll know the driver Nico Barkley, the meme meister himself, One Acco. Used to be teammates with this man, Louis-Philippe Capamajan. A good while ago, the two of them, Peruvians. Now he's running with GT Omega RPM Esports. Of course, in that time that he's sort of taken a maybe, like I said, maybe a step away, he has returned and lost no speed. It is absolutely mad. And this is actually a very common thing that we've seen a lot of drivers return in the recent past. Alan Terzic, Lars Brookman, all these top flight drivers back in sort of like 2015, 2016, 2017 that all kind of took a break. They're all starting to return now, which is annoying because for those of you taking part in sim racing, thinking, God, yeah, I'm just getting up towards the front. And then suddenly this old guy comes along that you've never heard of. And you're just like, where's your speed come from? And it never goes. It absolutely never disappears. They are always on the limit of the car, and it never really it never fades away from you. So we're getting a little bit of a word there that a couple of drivers will be getting receiving some penalties. Nate Jakimowicz will be getting a drive-through penalty for an incident with John Cook. That said, John Cook will be receiving a stop-and-go penalty for his retaliation to said incident, and that was the final part that we saw. I didn't actually catch the incident in the sense from Jakimowicz to John Cook, but definitely caught the rougher end of it. And those are penalties now assigned, so they'll be set to serve them. It will take them 3 laps to do so. They can serve them straight away, or they can wait a little bit. A bit of a shame, that incident, because it was a battle that was brewing with fair potential. But those two ready to come down pit lane, and just 30 minutes into the race, and everyone is very much separated. And for Jakimowicz, I think he might be taking a bit of a longer penalty though. Whoa, good! I'm going to give that a clap. That was very good. He didn't get into the wall. That's a 10 out of 10. That is, because it's very easy to slip and slide and push it that little bit too far, especially coming through Acqua Minerale. One section, which I know on the older tracks, there used to be a chicane that ran into Acqua Minerale. So glad that chicane doesn't exist. It is in Automobilista. Whether it's in Automobilista 2, no idea. But in the first one anyway, you can run, or at least I remember, you can run the old layout, the very old layout, where there was a chicane there. And it is respectfully beyond terrible. As serving the penalty straight away, Jakimowicz is John Cook as well. John Cook's not going to serve his penalty straight away. He's going to run around a little bit and serve it in a few laps' time. His stop-and-go penalty will be required service slightly after. There's currently a 2-second gap between Ferreira and between Moises Almeida, which is the gap just ahead of this. I think John Cook will be sort of trying to claw down the advantage before he takes that penalty, but when he comes through on the stop-go penalty, it's probably going to drop him around the area of Rolf Campos down in 12th place. Here is Moises Almeida, who you can see just coming through the foreground in that very, very green Ferrari of Ferreira. Just closing that gap ever so slightly. It does seem to sort of ebb and flow. Oh, Jakimowicz has been round again. Jakimowicz out of Villeneuve after serving that driver penalty. I think he's going to take too much curb on the second apex. Let's see what happens. Goes through the first apex. Is it going to be too much curb? No, he's going to run wide. Oh no, he just overspeeds it. He just takes too much speed through there. Loses the rear end. The thing is once you've lost it once, which you did at Acqua Minerale, coming through pit lane probably would have cooled them down a fair amount. But those rear tyres would still have been slightly too toasty, and thermal degradation is an issue with these cars. The point is there's a certain temperature factor that once you start going over that sense, as Argenis Riera is closing in at the moment on a potential podium from Garrido. The thing is with that temperature window, it's quite sensitive, and once you go over that, it's quite hard to get it back down. It's Marcello Thompson ahead, who was the driver that sort of reversed onto the racing line a little bit earlier ahead of the leaders in fairly controversial fashion. Now getting blue flags, but not really getting out of the way. Oh, he does a little bit though as we go through Piratella. Is the door open enough for Argenis Riera to head through as well? Not quite yet. He's going to have to drop back. This is going to cost Argenis Riera a little bit of time, although he's just run wide. Acqua Minerale has Marcello Thompson. Flashing of the lights coming the way of Argenis Riera, pulls it over to the left-hand side of the road and does let Riera through. Maybe not in the best fashion. That said, you've got to give credit to sometimes in the back markers. At least he did get out of the way. I mean, I would have been pretty cross if I was in the car, but being a back marker's actually a little bit harder than people think. Everyone seems to think that it's easy work, but it is thankless for starters, and everyone's, without being too harsh, everyone's very egotistical around back markers, because it's sort of like the well, you should have done this, you should have done that. It's kind of like, well, if you tell them in a respectable way, they'll probably learn. But if you tell them in a nasty way, where you're just constantly telling them that they're wrong and they need to, I've had many an insult thrown at a back marker, so I'll hold my tongue a little bit. It's all about like teaching. Sim racing is the easiest form of racing to teach, because everything's very I say obvious, but everything's like you can telegraph stuff, you can show stuff, you can be like, right, okay, this is what you did wrong in that scenario, and this is what you should do in that scenario, and we can all press F12, take a print screen, stick it in Photoshop, draw some lines, and then be like, this is what I probably would have done, right? It's such an approachable medium in that sense of teaching, that to learn racecraft, it's been said time and time again, even from professional race drivers. I was having a chat with Dennis Lind about such stuff not too long ago, of course, Lamborghini factory driver, about in a sense that no, these cars don't drive particularly realistically. They don't drive terribly, but these aren't driven to a very top level of simulation. They do some things well, they do some things not so well. But the thing is in sim racing, regardless of how poor the car is or how whatever, it doesn't really matter. The one thing that you can always take from sim racing, whether it's the pros or whatever, is that you do actually learn racecraft. You have to learn racecraft. You have to learn body language of cars, understanding how a race is unfolding, understanding when and when not to go for a move. Now, obviously, in sim racing, 9 times out of 10, it's let's just dive bomb the guy. But you can learn that. You can learn when it is right to and when it isn't. And that's where you see the great drivers come to the fore. The likes of Erhan Yuyovsky, the likes of Risto Capet, all these top levels, Yuri Kazdorp. I'm literally just listing RHG esports drivers, but they are very good. Arne Skovely, they're all top flight drivers because they understand patience. That is quite a moment there from Ferreira, who is under increasing pressure from the man we are on board with, Moises Almeida, not staying too much in the slipstream. John Cook does finally come into the pit lane as well to serve his stop and go penalty, so he's finally bit the bullet on that one. 3 laps in, you have that time to wait before you serve it. With Almeida, where is he going to find a good chance? In this sense, once he's closed up that gap, he either needs to go for it straight away or really eye up a great opportunity, because the problem is that if you kind of go for stuff, if you sort of send it, right? And what I mean by that is we all know the kind of send that I'm saying is where you leave it on the inside. Wow, that's very underwhelming there from Ferreira. Just let him go. I was looking for a race. Oh, come on. No, it's when it comes to that move, though, is that from a serious racing standpoint, is that if you constantly are looking, if you're constantly semi-going for moves, if you're looking down the inside and sort of half-committing, leaving a nose down the inside, then you're never going to make that move stick. You need to get down the inside, and you need to commit, and you need to go. Or you need to wait, and you need to catch them off guard. The best places to catch them off guard are corners that you don't normally overtake at. And that does sound like pretty dangerous stuff, but you don't normally see that much overtaking, to be honest, into Tozer, right? So you keep them under pressure at all times, but you don't go for anything. And then suddenly you're just like, okay, now's the time. I'm kind of close enough. Now's the time. And you just go for it into a corner that's maybe a little bit unsuspecting, because that's where the gap's opened up. If you're constantly known for always attacking, always being on the attack, then people will defend from that, because they defense is not that difficult. It's not as difficult as some people make it. It's all about predictability. It's all about commitment and being proactive in defense, not reactive. That's the issue that a lot of people make, is a lot of defensive driving, no one in particular in Formula 1, is reactive. It's about moving when they move in defence, and that's inherently dangerous. Whereas if you're proactive in your defence, if you're covering off the corner early, as we see Espinosa, who's the BMW that's come through on those two Ferraris and is very quickly clearing off, obviously a lap down. If you're proactive in your defence, genuinely, if you're smart in that sense, you'll never get overtaken. It's so hard to pass someone who's proactive and smart on their defence. Also, I've seen this in touring cars and stuff. The best way to defend is not to defend at all. What's the fastest line around a racing circuit? The racing line. Now, yes, of course, slipstream and stuff plays into that, so you can't always do it. But if the slipstream factor's not too hard, then just down the racing line and just take your racing line through the corners. It's the fastest way, as Almeida nearly loses it through Variante Alta. And outside of that, if there's a circuit like this, for example, that they're probably not going to be close enough through Villeneuve. They're probably not going to be close enough through Tosa. Probably not going to be close enough up towards Piratella and then down through Aqua Minerale and even to Variante Alta. It's only really, as there's a bit of a moment from Ferreira joining Almeida in the slide off corner show. If you're just if you're those corners, there's not much slipstream in those corners, you're not expecting an overtake there, then just follow your racing line, because you don't need to be looking in there. It's all about just keeping on your racing line and not feeling the pressure from behind. The moment you start feeling the pressure is the moment you succumb to it. And that is the issue. We did just have a yellow flag out. Oh, it's Yakamowitz. Oh, and he's continuing on with no rear wing as well. That's pretty, that's what the cool kids would say is risque. That is not ideal from Nato Yakamowitz. Has lost it out of the final corner of Vatsa. Oh, actually, he's lost it. Oh, that would be a big off if he's coming out of the gravel trap there. He has gone into the wall very quickly. He's also spun it because obviously he's got no rear wing, which means the car is very broken, not necessarily just from the aero department, but also from a suspension department. So the moment that he steps on the brakes, because the rear suspension is the one that's gone, he is going for a spin. We'll watch him up to Villeneuve, and I'm pretty sure he's going to go for a pirouette. There we go. That is unfortunate. Sorry, lad. Going a lap down regardless, and with a very damaged car. The two leaders come through, and hopefully he'll remain smart in this scenario. Capamajan is coming under pressure from Velarde behind, who is closing that gap. It is down to a second. It is also half a second between two drivers that will be coming through this momentarily, as Argenis Riera is closing on the back of Martin Garrido. So that battle for the podium is about to start raging on again. There's also a second and a bit still between Ferreira and Almeida. That said, with Ferreira, who gave the position up, oddly enough, is seemingly matching pace with Almeida, which is always how it happens. Anyone who's done a race where you're just like, oh, I'm here for SR, lads. Any race that you've had like that, when it comes to letting someone through and just thinking of the safer option and thinking of getting to the end of the race rather than racing for every position, you always find that when you let them go and then you match them on pace and then start going fast, you're just like, oh, why did I let them go? Why have I done this to myself? It's so easy to do, so relatable. So we'll keep an eye on that gap, see if it closes down anymore. Our focus remains on this battle for the podium. Argenis Riera on the medium tyres, having kept that gap. He was never particularly good on the tyres back in the day. I used to race Argenis Riera in some open wheelers. Oh, a long time ago. 5 years? 6 years? Very long time ago. They've just caught up to the back of Yakamowitz, who comes into the pit lane to repair the car. He's going to be a lengthy stop there for Nato Yakamowitz. The second time he's come into the pit lane this afternoon, obviously having served the drive-through penalty. We're approaching the halfway point of the race, and we'll see if anyone does make a pit stop and dives in for fuel. Yakamowitz, the only other runner on medium tyres, just switched onto the softs, our mind. Obviously, after an incident of that calibre, you'll definitely want to switch tyres. They'll repair the rear wing, but he's looking to be stationary for a good couple of minutes, at least. Very much throwing it over the curb through Variante Villeneuve into Tosa. Slipping and slidey a little bit there from Garrido, must be said. I think the soft tyres of his are becoming a little bit unstuck when it comes to their adhesion to the track surface. Noting again, as I've said before a few times, I'll only repeat it once more, that the medium tyres that Riera's on, must be said, that harder compound will take to thermal degradation slightly easier. So when they are starting to heat up, its temperature sensitive window should be a little bit better. That said, it used to be a thing in rFactor. I don't think it's so much a deal now, but the harder compound, because it would scrub more, because there was less inherent grip, as our race leaders are very much closing in, because there was less grip in the hard tyre, when you started to slide it around, it used to scrub more, obviously, but because it's a harder tyre, but it played to the same temperature aspect that all the other tyres used to do, it would then heat up very, very quickly. Giancarlo Velarde, not close enough to go for anything. I did wonder if he was going to close in enough on slipstream, but not yet. Weird that Capmajan is struggling so much. His pace has gone. Argenis Riera has already got through on Garrido. I'm pretty sure Garrido just let him... Well, hang on, has Garrido got a problem? No, I think he's just let him go and then just dropped off. It's weird that he just casual, just being like, that's fine, I'm not going to fight it too hard. And yeah, that was a... I'm still not convinced by that. I think Garrido has got a problem of some description because he is very slow at the moment. Someone who's not slow. Capmajan. And Valerde. There is Penido into the pit lane, the first of the stoppers further up the order to take his fuel. Will he take tyres though? Let's have a look. Is he going to take any tyres in this stop? Oh, he's already taken this stop. Fantastic. That means he's probably not taking tyres because that was a very quick stop. I don't think, over an hour race, I don't think anyone needs to take tyres because these tyres should be good not only for an hour, they should be good for realistically a double stint in an endurance race, even a triple. So I don't think anyone will be taking tyres unless it's courtesy of damage. Leonardo Ferreira into the pit lane in that Ferrari. He's going to come to a stop. Let's see, is he going to jump it up on the jacks? Well, he is very slow into his box, though. You can go a little bit quicker than that, buddy. Nope. Oh, wow, he is cruising. Right, there we go, from second place. Andrea Penido, by the way, has retired from the race from suspension damage, so I'm assuming an issue has happened to him. Giancarlo Velarde into the pit lane. There is no tyres going on that. You didn't see it jump up onto the jacks, which is the incentive. The issue is that he's going out on the same tyres he's on, which is fine. As we said, they should go the distance easy peasy. But he's going to struggle because the fuel that's gone into the car, obviously the weight has returned. The tyres are still in their worn state. So Capmajan is driving around on the tyres, and he's on the lower fuel though. Getting a note from Penido here, who said that he had no place to refuel. Neither did Leonardo Ferreira, which is an issue I've not seen in rFactor 2. It is an issue that I've seen before, but not in rFactor 2, and certainly not on a track build by Racer Studios and backed by 397. It's a very odd issue to have. We'll see if anyone else has a similar issue. Saw it back in 2012, I think it was. It was Bathurst 1000 in a league called Touring Pro Series, and a Mr. Robert Wiesemiller, who now works for Race Room. Oh, that's a bit of a slide there from Capmajan. He came into the pit lane at Bathurst and was like, I've not got a box. And he drove around everywhere. He had no fuel to do another lap, and he went even into the infield area to see, like, surely they've not put it there. Checked in every garage. There was no red box. So I guess we've seen it happen. Capmajan has no issue finding his box and comes straight into it and starts service on his car. Argenis Riera also into the pit lane. See if he has an issue. I don't think he will. Accelerates into his box and comes to a stop. Found his. And Velarde also circulating, has found his. Garrido. There's a couple of people. I wonder if it's not necessarily that they didn't have one, or not trying to be harsh. Maybe they missed it. It's. I wonder if they've missed it, or I don't know. Like, I don't want to comment on their eyesight. The red box, I will say, because it's for those of you that don't know, having never really raced in rFactor 2, if anyone's there, that hasn't raced an rFactor 2 before, and certainly not done a race with pit stops and stuff, is when you come into the pit lane, you get it's a red rectangle, and you can change the colour of it, by the way. For those of you that don't know, it's in the JSON file. You can go and change the colour to whatever colour you want. You can make it bright pink for all you care. As Garrido heads out to the race circuit, far behind our Genius Riera. So he's lost out a fair amount, as has Velarde. It looks like it's a couple of seconds that he's lost out. See if he can close that gap down. Here is Giancarlo Velarde. But either way, though, the red, because it's red by default. And my point to this is that there's a lot of red in the pit lane. The divider between the fast lane and the pit lane is also red. And I'm not saying that they have missed it, but there is still potential. Either way, we're halfway through the race, and we'll see how this one unfolds. But before that, we'll head to our sponsors.
Stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real. This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet.
Well, welcome back then to the South American special here at World Pro Racing, the stream powered by Melita Gigabit Connection. Fantastic scenes that we've seen across the entirety of this race. Just 20 minutes to go in side by side. You may have seen a little bit of battling between Renzo Melzi and Alonso Miranda, the two BMW M6s. It was Melzi who had to come down pit lane. I think he received too many track excursions and fell foul of a penalty. We currently look at fifth place Moises Almeida, who behind has one of the M6s that is a lap down. I believe. I thought it was going to be Maximiliano Moore, but no, it is Julio Espinosa. A lap down at the moment. Oh, what a time to look at him, Moises Almeida. Oh, there we go. Bravo, good sir. Good catch. That was pushing it very, very far. Maybe just overdoing it a small touch. Post pit stops to give you an update as to what's been going on. After the pit stop sequences, Moises Almeida is going to allow this lap traffic to maybe get through as Espinosa, who actually seems to have decent pace, but unfortunately lacking in the consistency department, courtesy of him being a lap down. But we've seen him dart through the middle of some Ferraris and Callaways and stuff earlier. Definitely plenty of pace in Espinosa's car, just not the consistency to back it up. The update, though, post pit stop, is that Louis-Philippe Capamajan has been absolutely blasting it at the front of the field. He is now 6 seconds clear of Giancarlo Velarde. The closing up through the pit stop sequence was all well and good, but you kind of get the feeling that this man was holding something in hand. And once that pit stop sequence had been completed, said before, if you take a tyre, even if you look at the percentage numbers and think, oh, it's your percentage numbers are slightly better than mine, actually means less than the actual heat of the tyre, than the actual core degradation, all that kind of lark. That basically Capamajan had never overexcited his tyres, never overexerted them over his stint, was kind of within himself a little bit, maybe made a couple of mistakes or whatever. But the thing is once you put the weight back in the car, once you fill the car up and you refuel it, that weight going back in really, really unsettles the car. It is very unnerving and very uncomfortable, at least for a few laps until you get used to it, until you start burning the fuel back down. Now, Capamajan, who's looked after his tyres, has come into the pit lane, and then he's gone, right, okay, now I can start lighting these tyres up. Yellow flag out in sector 3, not quite sure who that's for, as Moises Almeida and Alonso Miranda are both in pit lane. I'm not sure what this yellow flag is for. Marcello Thompson's been into the pit lane again for yet another one. There is Alonso Miranda in the pit lane. Ralph Campos is on the back of Garrido. Those two separated by a lap, but not very much on the circuit itself. Trying to gain a lap back. Oh my goodness, that was very, very close. Campos looking definitely the pacier of the two. Has probably taken some fresh tyres, and that's where the pace is absolutely coming from. We're on board with Rolf Campos in the Ferrari. Should be a pretty easy move. Realistically, Garrido, who let through Argenis Riera earlier in the race, shouldn't fight that one too hard. As there's been contact up ahead. Miranda's in the middle of the road. Oh my goodness me. Coming through. I think there was an instant between himself and potentially John Cook down at T1. Here is Alonso Miranda joining the race. Back from the pit lane. Here comes John Cook. Firing it down the inside. Oh, I think that's more Miranda coming back across. I'm not quite sure. That's not a great angle for me to see it from. I'm not a race steward as well, so I'll hold my judgment. But I do get the feeling that might have been a bit more on Alonso Miranda than it was John Cook. That said, John Cook was coming from quite a fair way back. So you never know. Either way, the story doesn't change in that sense that Miranda's been sent to the back to 9th place, and John Cook is coming under a fair amount of pressure from Rolf Campos, who on those fresher tyres is demolishing the gap down. We see Renzo Melzi, who's got it's not Espinosa. See, this is the thing is I get very confused because everyone's in the same livery. That's Maximiliano Moore directly behind in the M6. I say the same livery. That one's actually quite different. It's just picked the exact same colour palette as the RF2 car that we're currently looking at, Renzo Melzi. So, there you go. You can see from above, there's some slight difference from above. More though, a lap down, yet another car separated by a lap, but obviously the pace differential between the two. It's now up to nearly 10 seconds. Velarde's actually really struggling here on the pace of that car. So I'm not sure things are going to go too well for him. We'll see more. I think he might try and make something stick. Not into Piratella, backs out of even making an attempt up there. But there was still the potential. If in 7th place, though, John Cook is coming under a lot of pressure from Rolf Campos. That car behind is for position. That battle for 7th place. Campos on the fresher tyres. The battle is still fairly moot. We do remember that John Cook received a stop-and-go penalty earlier for a reactionary incident, I guess, with Nato Jakimowicz. He has received a drive-through penalty for the incident involving Alonso Miranda there. Stewards felt that he did come from too far back, and fair enough. I'll give him that. He did come from a couple of countries. I'm pretty sure he came so far back that he was north of the Alps with the distance that he dived that one down. Nevertheless, he's got that drive-through penalty, so the position's fairly moot. But noting how with the stop-and-go penalty earlier, he waited till the very last moment. He waited 3 laps into it, the maximum distance that you can take a penalty before serving it. Maybe struggling on pace there as Campos. Very much on the back through Variante Alta. Louis-Philippe Capmajam with a little bit of traffic ahead of him as well, as he's trying to find his way through. That is Melzi. Actually saying that, I say, it would be trusted. This is Melzi going for his first lap down because he's obviously just been passed. I'm getting all the BMWs mixed up because Moore has been into the pit lane. Again, there you go, Melzi doesn't fend off our race leader too hard, and the blue flags appearing, drop him the position. John Cook did not come into the pit lane. And there's Velarde in that second position. You can see there in the graphic in the bottom right, important to note, the best lap versus the last lap. And this is where Giancarlo Velarde is losing out, because his fastest lap times are 41.9. Towards the end of the pit stop sequence earlier, he was doing mid to low 43s. After that pit stop sequence, he's come out and he's been setting 44s, the odd 40. He did a 45.5 at one point. Has gone into the 43s a couple of times, but for the most part, is sort of sat in the 44s. By the way, the battle for 7th place, as we look at it now, is very, very close. Cook with Rolf Campos running up towards Piratella. Campos to the inside, does not fancy it on John Cook. He's probably seen the penalties appeared because it comes up in the in-game chat, so everyone gets to see who's been applied a drive-through penalty, and maybe Campos not feeling the full-on requirement to come into the pit lane. But yeah, either way, so we're talking 44s. Roughly is what he's doing post pit stop as Velarde. However, Louis-Philippe Capmajam every single timed lap post pit stop has been a 43, be it a mid or a low. He's only gone into the higher 43s the last 2 laps, which have been a 43.6 and a 43.7. So he's been on average a second quicker, as there goes a dive down the inside from Rolf Campos. The room is given from John Cook. That was a nice move there from Campos. Lovely into the final couple of corners, but he is going to have to fend off John Cook here, who's in the slipstream in that McLaren. Shiny Macca directly behind. I don't think he's going to be able to close too much in the slipstream because it's not the fastest bullet in the gun, the McLaren. That said, what is the fastest? Oh, he's very overdone that. Well, he's got 1 drive-through penalty, and the last thing you want to do is receive another one. And unfortunately for that one, I don't think there are many people that would fend that one off. That was very late on the brakes, and I get the feeling he might be stacking these drive-through penalties pretty sharpish. That was a fair hit to Campos, who either overdid the corner himself or kind of saw the dive bomb coming and tried just about to get out of the way. Up towards Piratella again. Didn't fancy it. Definitely had the speed to at least try and come here. This is on board with John Cook. This is on board with Rolf Campos behind, so you can see the body language of John Cook's car, and you can see the body language of Campos's car. You can see that he's basically backing it off a little bit just before they get into the corner. He's trying to weigh it up. I don't think he's going to go down the inside here. Oh, that was nearly very sketchy for an incident he really doesn't need to do. John Cook needs to come into the pit lane, I believe, this lap, and said that he was going to be stacking them up. He most certainly is. Received a drive-through penalty for the incident that we saw between himself and Rolf Campos. And there we go. Now he backs out of it. And John Cook departs the position and also drops the lap to Garrido, who's just coming through in between the two of them. You'll see Rolf Campos. Considering Campos's pace, I don't know if he will give this position up as John Cook comes into the pit lane. Because the thing is Campos is quicker than Garrido on the tyres that he's on. And I wonder if I'm Garrido, do I force him to drop that lap back? Because we know we've seen that he's quicker, and he's only been dropped back into the clutches of the Callaway behind, courtesy of that incident. So if I'm the stewards and stuff, I'm not applying the blue flag rule as harshly here. And if I'm Garrido, I'm also not like kicking and screaming, being like he needs to get out of the way. Because from what we've seen earlier, he should be faster. That said, when it closes down in a situation like this, very smartly as well, he's accepted his mistake and gone, yep, fair enough, that's close enough. And he's not impeding the leader in that sense. So he's just dropped him behind. And that was, to be fair, pretty nice from Campos. He'd done quite well and read the situation there very nicely, and has now received a bit of a boff for his troubles. A boff being a slight tap. That was Omar Miranda directly behind in that 13th place, just hitting Campos just ever so slightly. It's easy to do into Piratella, as we've seen John Cook get out of the way of Louis-Philippe Capamajan. Under 10 minutes to go in the race, and a very dominant display at the moment from Capamajan. It's post pit stop. He was under so much pressure prior to that pit stop, but you kind of get the feeling with Capamajan that yes, he was under that pressure, but he wasn't batting his eyelids at it. He wasn't worried about it. He was just sat there being like, yeah, oh my goodness me. Rolf Campos has just had a car lag into him. I don't know what just happened there. Omar Miranda just took flight. Let's have a look. I'm pretty I don't actually... Oh, no, I think Rolf Campos has lagged backwards. It's just out of here. I think you're going to see that Ferrari. There we go. Oh, that's a shame. Oh, that's that is a classic moment. I have seen that more than once. It doesn't happen frequently anymore. They've actually done, I will say this with rFactor 2, and I will stand their ground on this one. They've actually done a very good job on at least trying to stamp out. Very good, maybe a bit too far. They've done a decent job though of stamping out this issue, because if you go back, if anyone that was racing in 2017 and 2018, particularly 17, it was 17 actually. and 18 as well. Yeah, they were both pretty bad. Will know how bad it was in 2018 because you would not go through a race of even 20 minutes. Or I used to do touring cars, which were 25-minute races, and there was 3 of them in a night. And you would not go through a night without seeing a slowdown, like that. You wouldn't lag back. Like, it would always happen, and it was infuriating because you'd put in so much work to go faster, and then it would be stumped by the game lagging backwards. And to be fair, these days you can go through an entire race without seeing it. As Moises Almeida's going straight on at rFactor, he's going to open the door. Oof, doesn't try going through, does Garrido. Wasn't fancying that. I think he's trying to let Garrido through here, and in doing so is allowing the Ferrari, the SMP Ferrari of Rolf Campos, to close in. Garrido's just sat in the middle being like, can I get out of this at all? Can this guy get out of my way? But if Moises Almeida does drop back and gets out of the way, which he is by the letter of the law obliged to do, then he's going to drop the position as well, because Campos is very, very close. Max Verstappen did this in 2015 Monte Carlo, where he effectively was sat on the back. I don't remember who he was sat on the back of though when coming through the order. But either way, I think he was sat on the back of someone anyway who was lapping everyone. And in doing so, the doors kept opening up because the blue flag waved. You'd have to get out of the way of the leader. But in doing so, you kind of couldn't help but allow the next car through as well. I think he got by Grosjean into the hairpin, if I remember correctly. It was a long time ago. 5 years. It's not that long. Lots happened in 5 years, though. Sim racing has come a very long way in the half decade, or even 7 and a bit years, 8 years that I've been doing bits in sim racing. It has come a very, very long way, and it continues to do so. It continues to become more international, especially with running things like this, like the South American Special here in World Pro Racing. It is an international event. You see people, from Europe racing with people from South America, from North America, from Asia. There are still a few markets, that are yet to be tapped into in its fullest capacity. And for the most part, the continents kind of stick within themselves because still internet can become a bit of an issue. Pings running high and such. And that said, that's not really an issue here with the stream that's powered by Melita gigabit connection. It's plenty fast enough to cover this one off as Omar Miranda fires his way through a lap down at the moment, as we see people of various different laps in all of this. Because we've got Moises Almeida and Rolf Campos, who are a lap down on this car that we're currently looking at of Garrido. And then the car that's directly behind this, Omar Miranda, who is a lap even down on that still. On the furthest inside there, you've got Marcello Thompson, who's 5 laps down on the race leader at the moment. Oh, and there's no contact behind. Is there going to be? No, it's fine. I thought it was going to be a bit of an issue there, a bit of an upset. It's quite a mad little scrap here with 4 minutes to go on the clock, as they all tussle their way around. Everyone with differing pace, differing tyre strategy, different tyre life, fuel numbers, all of that. To be fair, the fuel numbers should all be pretty similar at this point, considering we're closing in the end of the race. Oh, there's an instant behind. Who was that? That's Rolf Campos taking to the grass. And now he's going to come under pressure from Alonso Miranda, who's closing in the M6 behind. So he's going to grab 7th place as Alonso Miranda, actually. He's been closing in. Just to say, I do very much like that livery. Oh, that's a little bit dodgy there from Rolf. Oh, that's very dodgy there from Campos. That's not so nice. Very much squeezing away left and right. It is a community race, a bit of fun. But nevertheless, you don't really like to see that too much. Not giving Alonso Miranda anywhere to go in that sense, despite having the overspeed. You're only supposed to move once. I'm sure you'll blame it on the... it's easy to blame on the zigzag. Let's see what happens up here. Goes to the outside as Alonso Miranda. Overcooking the corner maybe as Rolf Campos. No, should be able to pull it to both apexes pretty nicely. Campos, though, I don't think he's going to get quite as good a run out of the corner as Alonso Miranda does. Out of Tamarello towards Villeneuve. I don't think there's going to be any way through, though. No, there isn't. Oh, it would help if you would hit an apex. through the final part of Villeneuve. Maybe not the highest momentum point, but at this point, these cars are very tricky to drive. They're on our old tyres. Maybe not very tricky. They're much harder than they were, because the thing is when you're practicing, you tend to practice. A lot of people do like 10 laps or so. No one really applies an hour. Well, I'd say no one. Not many people apply an hour stint in practice too much. Like, you do it once or twice maybe, but you don't. It's not something that you're well drilled on. And so the tyres that they're on, very few of the drivers on the grid would have raced this tyre in this state around this circuit in practice, in preparation for this race. You don't tend to race the tyres out that long. So they're being a bit of pioneers, I guess, in their own environment. A minute 30 left on the clock. I believe Louis-Philippe Capamajin is going to come around to complete this lap, and then we'll do another one. So this is the penultimate lap of the race for the Peruvian, who post pit stop has been very, very dominant. An incredible display. Omar Miranda comes into the pit lane for one final stop to stick a couple of litres of fuel to make sure that he can get to the checkered flag. Alonso Miranda and Rolf Campos are very, very close. Moises Almeida's not too far down the road as well. The battle for 6th place. You can see it on your leaderboard that it's all pretty tight there in that 6th place battle. Giancarlo Velarde, who's done incredible stuff. Here is Moises Almeida in that 6th place. Behind this, Miranda's closer he's ever been. He's made contact. In fact, he has made contact with the back of Rolf Campos. That's not ideal. The door's not open. Oh, okay, that's not. I think he might have got beached on the curb and lost it rather than hard righted. I think that looks an awful lot worse than it was, and I hope it was in visual aspects. We'll take a replay of that before we reach the checkered flag. Let's have a look with Rolf Campos. We ride on board to see exactly what happened. There was the bump. You saw that going through. He holds right. See, he's... Oh, no, touche. No, that was turning it right. Touche. I think he might be in a little bit of trouble there from the stewards. He did get beached on the curb, though. And I think when he was turning right, he was trying to get it off the curb. And where the curb ended, then it hard right. I'm only trying to play devil's advocate here. But needless to say, that is not what you would classify as a good move to be a part of. And I get the feeling he's going to get quite a large slap on the wrist from the race stewards in that scenario as he's rolling back onto the racing line, which is also less than ideal. I hope Giancarlo Velarde is going to see him as we look at our race leader. Giancarlo Velarde nearly hit him. Is he still sat on the racing line, which is not ideal. Our race leader, though, speaking of things that are ideal, his performance today, there is Rolf Campos, who is just sat there, concerningly so. Very much in the way of the competitors. That was our Genus Riera coming through. Not quite sure what's happened, but anyway. Capamajin, as I was saying, has been so very impressive. His pace post-pit stop has been mighty. It was timed to perfection, and he waited in that first stint to make sure that the tyres were left in perfect state for that second stint. And that second stint has very much come to him. And over the last half an hour, he has pulled out 20 seconds on Giancarlo Velarde and is going to win here in the South American Special in World Pro Racing. What a fantastic drive from Louis-Philippe Capamajin, and I'm sure even he would be impressed with that one. The GT Omega RPM Esports driver putting everything together. Then Giancarlo Velarde comes across the line in second place. Good drive from him. Very impressive pre-pit stop. Post-pit stop, less so. Did not have the pace and consistency to match the Peruvian ahead. Our Genus Riera going to come across the line in third place. A fair drive from him to grab himself a podium after qualifying in fifth place and running the medium tyres all afternoon. Maybe not the ideal strategy, but that tyre does take a fair beating around this circuit. Then behind that, Garrido, Melzi rounds out the top five. The two Almeidas, Moises Almeida leads Alonso Miranda. Espinosa in 8th place will be coming across the line as well, as there's Capamajin doing a little bit of celebration into the barrier. Less than ideal. But yes, the coming across the line now, Moises Almeida does indeed finish. Alonso Miranda also not much separating them, so Almeida does hang on to 6th place. Espinoza is going to come across in 8th position. Yakimovitz in 9th, and John Cook, after a bit of a tumultuous drive, a few penalties come his way, 10th place. Rolf Campus, a very controversial end, retires the race, but in 11th place. Omar Miranda in 12th. Maximiliano Moore in 13th. Marcello Thompson in 14th. Then a long slew of retirements. Penido, Ferreira, Martello, Paul Gartner, then Benavides, Soto, Cavero, and Miguel de los Rios. All retirements from this race. A bit of a shame there for them. See if we'll grab ourselves an interview from our race winners, podium sitters, and see how they fared out on the grid. As I said, it was a very, very credible drive from Kapamajan, and it may well be a special race, a one-off race, but you can carry momentum from a race like this in confidence, in style, in understanding of the car, furthering your understanding of a car, especially through a constantly changing fuel load. But the fact that it was a 2 times on the fuel, it does mean that fuel load's changing quicker than normally expected. Louis-Philippe Kapamajan in the channel with us. Incredible drive. Got to be said that it was impressive that you held your own in the first stint under fairly immense pressure. Were you all playing into the second half of that race? Because you were mighty in the second half.
Hi, Lewis. Yes, in the first half, it was a very tight half. Giancarlo was very fast, but I was with a low mix because of the one-stop strategy that went very well. And on the second half, we could push a lot more harder, and that's why we get a more gap.
Did you know that Giancarlo was maybe pushing it a little bit too hard in the early stages? Were you feeling the pressure from behind, or were you kind of understanding of the situation?
No, yes, I knew he was with more mix. That's why I defend in some corners, and I told him, if you're going to make a one stop, you're not going to last. So he started lifting and coasting and take the mix down. And, well, it was a happy race for all of us.
Wow, it was a quality drive, it must be said. So congratulations to you, our race winner. We'll go to Giancarlo Velarde as well. A good drive. You applied pressure in the early parts of that race. Maybe struggled with a little bit of pace and a little bit of consistency in the second half. But how was it for you out there?
Hi, Luis. Thank you, and to WPR, and congrats to Felipe. Yeah, first half was a matter of saving fuel, trying to stick with Luis Felipe and not going that back. I knew he was saving fuel. I knew he was saving tires as well. And well, my intention to stick with him made me consume a little bit more fuel and a little bit more tires as well. So in the second half, he was faster than me, and well, he made a big gap. So well played by him. We have to still learn a lot for that strategy things.
Yeah, you say about learning a lot. Of course, practice and preparation is a big part of sim racing. Did you kind of know that the tyres were going to be quite hard work towards the end of the race? Did you kind of do practice runs to sort of get an idea of how it was going to be at the end?
Well, I didn't get that much practice before the race, to be honest. But well, I knew that the tires will last okay. But yeah, if there's a driver that saves tires better than you, then you're gonna be slower. So the car was not dangerous for the tires, but it was a little bit slower. So Luis Felipe knows very well to take care of tires in the early stages and push at the last. Well, it's a little bit more experience that he has. So well, that was it.
Well, thank you very much. Another good drive. Second place, Argenius Riera in third. Came across the line after moving up the order, qualified in 5th place, up to 3rd, took the medium tyres. Interesting choice. What was the thinking behind that?
Hi, Lewis. Yes, I was thinking the tire is too much wear, and I did choose the medium tires to do the race. So I knew that I didn't have the pace, so I was thinking to do a good race and finish the race and see what happened ahead.
Well, you also chose the Ferrari, going against a lot of people who chose the Callaway. Was it more of like a comfort thing of how the car drove, or were there certain advantages to how the car raced?
No, I don't have much knowing about the GT car, so I choose anywhere, any car I did.
Fair enough. And Ferrari is a fair choice, so don't panic on that one.
Yeah, because I did try this car today earlier, and I like it.
Ah, well, very good. It was nice having you on circuit, and a well-deserved third place as well. So thank you to our podium sitters throughout the race. And of course, thank you to you for watching, and thank you to World Pro Racing for running the event here in the South American Special. It's been a great event. And obviously big thanks to all of our lovely sponsors: Gaming Malta, HyperX, Thrustmaster, VisitMalta.com, and of course TVM Sports, ESTV and Motorsport.tv as well, helping us through this. It has been a very, very good race. For those of you that want to be catching more, though, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, to follow us on Twitch, go and follow us on Facebook as well, and jump in on the website where you can find out more on the upcoming events. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time when we return, goodbye.
This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.